Hello and welcome to the Teach Music 21C podcast series. I'm Merlin Thompson, the creator and founder of Teach Music 21C. It's a professional development program for music studio teachers where the focus is on nurturing and empowering our students as lifelong music makers. And I'm joined today by Connie Bell, an experienced piano teacher colleague and longtime supporter of Teach Music 21C. Welcome, Connie.
How are you? It's great
Yeah,
to be here.
absolutely great. Thanks so much for joining in. And for today, I thought, let's take a look at a question teachers frequently ask that goes something like, is doing something 10 times the right amount of repetition? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the thoughts on that, I have learned over the years that the times, 10 times, 20 times, 50 times, doesn't matter as much as the purpose for the repetition. Um, and every student is different. We do have to have repetitions in our piano playing. We do to learn the muscle memory. But if a student is mindlessly doing these repetitions, does the teacher want them to improve fluency or tone or no tension, whatever it is we want them to have? They need to know why we're doing it, and even at the lesson repeat why or discover themselves why through our guidance, so that they know, okay, I'm doing this 10 times for this. Can I do it this way? That's my thought on repetitions.
Yeah, so it's really interesting because the repetition is key in terms of getting that familiarity going or that fluency. And then there comes the question of the purpose. So why are we doing this? And I always remember a student of mine, this is one of my first years of teaching, and it really woke me up. He came into his lesson, said, Dr. Thompson, I've been doing everything you told me to. And I thought, oh, this is really great. And I said, so what did you improve? And his answer was, improve? You didn't say anything about improving. You just said you were supposed to practice. And so I realized, there was a little bit of language that was missing between the two of us.
It's so true. I totally have had that similar experience where they say, I just did it. I just did it 20 times. But what did you get? Such and such? I didn't know I was supposed to do that. And so it really is even the doing at the lesson. I really like to do that with my students and have them do it. And why are we doing this? And what are we doing this for? And then can you do this many times? And even having the older students, when they can write well, to write it on their chart, to take their own note that helps them remember in their mind, this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah. It's so amazing. And for me, there's even one more step. So there is the why are we doing this thing that's really important. But then there's the question of, did we get there or did we not get there? So I did something 10 times. And how am I going to test myself out to make sure that it's going to stay? And for me, there's a certain amount of, we want to practice till we have this excess of ability kind of thing going on, so that when we test it out, indeed, it won't disappear. Because if we test it out twice and it disappears on the second one, well, that tells us something is going on. It might signal that's as far as we can get on that particular day. And this is a longer term task that's going to require several days or maybe even weeks and months of attention. So there is that testing out place as well. Do you have any thoughts on the testing out process?
I think with the testing out, it really is what you were saying. It can be a long term, it can be a short term. And students will say sometimes when they come, I thought I had this. I thought I got it. You did, but you got it as far as you could get it this week. What are we going to do next week? What can we change? What could we do different? Or do you want to keep doing the same thing? Do you think you just need more? And usually students know, oh, I think I just need more, or I don't think it worked for me that way. What else could I do? So that's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting that they get on these journeys. I always remember, I think it was my niece. She was doing a flute exam. And so after the exam, I asked her, how did she think things went? And she said, oh, really, really well. And I said, how do you know that? And she said, well, because the examiner smiled at her on the way out. And so I understood there was a certain amount of emotional, what could I say, emotional evaluation. So if the examiner smiled, that kind of created a good feeling. So yeah, the good feeling tells you you did a good job. But at the same time, I was wondering, did she have other ways of telling how things turned out? Could she say, oh, I did all these things in this piece, or I did all this in another piece? And I wasn't sure that she was using that kind of testing things out or evaluating to give her an accurate, or to just create an accurate picture of what went on.
Yeah, that evaluating is so important to just see what they're doing. I know students, I have a student who's really involved in soccer. The 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 teacher makes us, my coach makes me run and makes me, makes me lift weights and makes me do this. And I said, well, why? Why do you do? Why is he doing that? I don't know. He just wants to make me suffer.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then we talk about why. And students could think that of piano teachers, these repetitions. I hate repetitions. But if they know what their goal is, what they know what they're doing, yes, they might be tedious, they might be tricky to get the skill that you're working for. But when you get it, it's that we won the game. It's that sense of, oh, I did it the way I satisfies me. So
Yeah, and I have the feeling music teachers have spent a lot of time with the singular repetition of the singular task kind of thing, and trying to find ways to motivate students through that whole process. And for me, it's really interesting because I've met some students who really, for them, this whole repetition thing is onerous. It's a very difficult thing for them to do. They feel burdened. After they've done something 3 times, it's like, oh, okay, don't ask me to do this anymore. And so there's, again, this emotional kind of thing clicks in because our emotions are important. Um, and there are people's, I think, various tolerances for repetition.
yeah, yeah, I've seen that with my students many times. And yeah, I think also helping them break it down. Sometimes it's too much for them. The whole this many times, or I don't know. I like to say to them, do it until you get it. How many times do I need to do it, Mrs. Bell? Well, until you get it, until you can do it without it falling off again or without hesitation. So, and every kid is different, what they can tolerate and how long it will take. And so, yeah, but it's a good thing to present challenges to them that help them, that are personal to them, that may mean something to them, that they go, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I would like to try that. Let me try it right now. I think I can do it. Those are the kind of things we want to talk about with our students, instead of do this 10 times every day this week and you'll have it.
Yeah, and I like the word you're using, the challenges idea. Um, I've seen in my own students, they have a couple of ways of challenging. Even beginners have a couple of ways of challenging themselves. Typically, they're going to play as fast as possible, and they're going to play as loud as possible. And those, for me, it's always interesting because we do come from a history where doing things outside of what we want the final product to look like wasn't always considered the best route to take. So it might have been the best route we thought was doing what we want to see happen, making sure we do that one again and again. And I think there was even the line, till it cannot disappear. And I do agree there is a certain amount of that. But I've also appreciate that you brought in this challenges idea. And I love that students, yeah, fast and loud for me are two great ones to start off. And if people are worried about fast and loud, I always say, well, nobody won the Tchaikovsky competition without playing fast or loud. That just didn't happen. So those are two things that we need to be able to do.
Yeah.
But I guess the question is, what else do we need to be doing? So we also need to be able to play soft and relatively slowly. For me, eyes closed is a big one. So the idea, yeah, if we want lots of repetition, why don't we repeat lots of different ways to do the same task?
Yeah. Yeah. That is so beneficial to students. It means they'll go home and do it. They'll go home and try it. They like that kind of thing instead of just do this 10 times. Yeah.
Yeah, it gives them, I think, some kind of autonomy with it as well. So it gets them quicker to that testing out kind of place is what it really does. And testing things out, and then even having to figure out, okay, so I tested myself out. What did I discover in this process? Did I discover that I can do it or that I can't do it? And those are that's that whole process of going from I'm not sure what's going on to I have a better idea to, yeah, I have some strategies and I'm going to keep working through them for sure.
Yes. And I have found that students will even come, okay, do this with your eyes closed. Let's try it at the lesson. They'll come back and say, I can do it standing on one foot.
Sure.
I can do it. They'll find ways that they tried it. And you don't have to say, do this 20 times. They already did it by finding the ways themselves, because you kind of spurred that on in their brain to, oh, I can do this repetition ways I want to try, So there's lots of good challenges. And as they progress and get older, it's the same thing, but just different challenges.
Yeah, and I think age appropriate and level appropriate conversations are important too. I did have a student who loved as a beginner in his first couple of years to practice standing on one foot for sure. But, when he got to be 14 and we were talking about challenges and I said, so what kind of things are you going to come up with? He didn't go to the standing on one foot thing. He had other things that he was ready to pull in by that time.
Yes, because he had his tools, the seeds had been planted, and he had now tools. Well, I could try this, I could try this. My students that are older usually give me the suggestions first. What would you do to get to this? And they know some ideas, and we can talk about those and see how they would help them get to their their goal that they want. So
yeah, and it's really important that we give the students that opportunity to test things out, to try their own things, and to give them opportunity to talk about it as well. So yeah, those older students, not just always teacher directing, teacher telling student what to do, this is what you need to do, but really letting the student take ownership and take charge of things so that they come away. For me, it's like always that thing of, will they be able to succeed when I'm not in the room? And if they can only be successful with me telling them what to do, I'm not so sure I've done a great job.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Connie, we've taken the topic of repetition for a little bit of a walk today, and we've looked at some different things that have to do with reflection and testing things out and purpose, age appropriate. I love the word challenges came up. All these things are tools that teachers can definitely put into use, and students are going to benefit from them with their own journey towards that lifelong music making experience. So thank you so much for joining in today.
Thank you for having me.
So this is the Teach Music 21C podcast series. I'm Merlin Thompson. I've been joined today by Connie Bell. We're going to get her back again on another occasion. Connie, thanks so much for joining in.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And to all of you checking us out today, thanks for checking in, and we'll see you again the next time.